Hello and welcome to the last episode of season 1 of Tell Muses, a podcast by storytellers, with storytellers, for storytellers, and anyone interested in the art of oral storytelling. Today, it's just Simona and myself. We have no muse for the last episode because we wanted to resume the whole thing we have been doing so long for you. So, hello, Simona.
Hello, Despina. Nice to be here for this last episode. It's crazy that this is the 25th episode of the
Indeed.
first season. It seems like a long, long time ago that we did the first one, but at the same time, time flew, and now we're doing episode 25.
Indeed, are we not? Well, it's been a lovely process. I mean, we have both enjoyed it immensely and meeting all those people from different parts of the woods, different backgrounds, different storytelling techniques. It's been very, very interesting for both of us. We've learned so much. But let us be our own muses today, dear Simona. So I know we've been through this in previous episodes, but would you like to share with us how you got hooked into storytelling?
Yeah, I've always loved stories. There are actually some videos. We didn't have phones back then when I was younger, but there are some videos of me trying to tell stories when I was about 3 years old. And then my sister telling me, "No, you don't remember this story. I'll tell it for you." It's so fun because she's just saying, "Oh no, you're making up the story." And maybe that's like the intro of my journey as a storyteller because I started creating my own stories even when I was
Oh.
little.
So your sister was actually right. You were making it up.
Yeah, I had no clue what I was selling. I just wanted to tell the story, but I had no clue what the story was about. It must have been Little Red Riding Hood or something similar. And my mother was asking me questions, and I was just making it up as I told it. But well, that's how it all started. And I've always loved reading books and stories and history as well. So knowing the past and knowing how we got here. But my first contact with oral storytelling actually came in 2020 because COVID brought so many bad things, but for me, it also brought a positive thing, and not positive in the way of being positive to COVID, but in the way of something nice, something very good. As an English teacher, I loved the job I was doing, but I felt that I was missing something from what I was doing. And that something was a kind of connection to my passion for stories and reading and telling stories. And I wanted to be more creative as I taught. And I was lucky to work in a school where they always organized an annual conference. And in 2020, it was online because of COVID, so we didn't go face to face. But online, I met David Heathfield. It's a story on his own because I'm very shy when it comes to speaking with new people. But at the same time, I force myself to do things because I know that otherwise I would just stay at home reading my book and not going anywhere. So my DOS, my director at the time, sent us an email saying there is this teacher, trainer, and storyteller. He's going to hold an interactive session online, but it's a webinar, so he won't be able to see the audience, but he would like someone to interact with. And I read it and I Googled David and I thought, oh, what he does is really interesting. So mixing oral storytelling with English teaching. And so I said, maybe I should do it. Maybe I should take part and be part of the audience with which he interacts. And then I told myself, no, I don't want to do it in front of everyone. So because I knew I didn't want to do it, I wrote an email saying, all right, I'll do it. And so we were there at the webinar and I interacted with David. I was one of the two people who interacted with him. And we had so much fun at the webinar and I was completely hooked. And during the webinar, he said that there would be a crash course. We've already talked about the crash course. So if you're listening to this and you don't know what the crash course is, go back and listen to David Heathfield's episode on 10 Muses. He said that there would be a crash course starting that weekend. So this was something like a Friday, and the crash course would start the following day, I think. And I said, oh, it's really interesting. But I didn't have the courage to enroll. And I sent him an email on the Sunday, so the day after the course started, and said, I was at the conference, I had so much fun. Could you keep me updated to know when the next crash course is? And he sent me a message saying, call me and we'll speak about that. And of course, knowing me, I said, no, I don't want to call him. I won't call him. No, 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 thank you. Just tell me when the next press course is. But well, my now husband, Francesco, he said, you are now going to call him because you like what he does and you want to do it. And so I picked up the phone and I spoke with this famous person for me because it was at the start of my teaching career back then. And I thought, oh, he's talking to me on the phone and he wants to speak to me. I don't know. I can't speak English. How can I speak English on the phone? And all these things that go inside my head. And well, he told me, why don't you enroll in the one that just started? So I'll send you the recording of the first meeting that we had, and you'll catch up with what we did, and then you start from there. And well, I said yes. And that was the start of how I got into storytelling. And I've been hooked ever since.
Well, you know what? If people ask you how long have you been storytelling, you can tell them since the age of 3, which
Yeah.
is the case for you.
Without knowing what I was doing, I think, Despina.
Yeah, because, it's engraved upon our DNA, storytelling. As a human species, if you consider the millennia we've been around, I am sure that stories must have been a fundamental part of our existence since time immemorial, right?
Yeah.
How we would inherit knowledge from previous generations, or how we would warn our children about dangers that might come up upon the way, or how to be safe and try to find, love and stuff like that, that stories talk about. How to become a mature person who can invest sentimentally, emotionally, and cognitively to others, with others, and with society. So I think that's the whole point. It's the core base of stories for us humans.
Despina, what about you? I don't think I know how you got into storytelling. Well, I know
Hmm.
that, well, of course, in Greece, Greek myths are all over the place. You live, there are so many remains of the ancient civilization that lived there.
You're right,
Storytelling.
but not many people are so interested in them. Incredibly so. Anyway, the truth is, we get some small chunks of knowledge about the myths at school. Mythology was never addressing children audiences, so it's been highly censored. So we get some pieces of the story, but I think they've tried to keep it sanitized, let's say, in a way, or not too gory, so that children can enjoy the stories without getting all the creepy details. But truth is, if you want to engage with myths, since that's how we started, it's a never-ending research. So my connection with stories started from my granny. I was lucky enough to have a storytelling granny who would use certain stories. Kids love to listen to the same stories repeatedly. And as the stories did not come out of a book, they were never in the same wording. Sometimes there would be variations. So if we were being naughty and we needed to be kept occupied for longer, the story would lengthen itself all of a sudden, would contain more detail. Stuff like that. Techniques that storytellers, professional storytellers use to this day. So I had my granny who'd tell me Greek folk tales. Basically, most of them would have to do with Kalikantari, a special Christmassy creature that's very mischievous and naughty and occasionally dangerous to humans. So those are the stories I remember. And then my father was a mythology enthusiast. I think I might have mentioned it to some previous episode in our talks with other people here. Some people have the Testament by the side of their bed to read at night. So that would be a huge volume of the entire Greek myths by the side of my father's bed. And even though the version he loved to read was given in a humoristic way, in a comical way, the myths were never tampered with in their core. So the details might have been altered, but not the core of the myth. So he would then come and tell us the myths, obviously, because he was a natural storyteller like that. He would make little voices and laugh at his own dad jokes. But still, I think we all three children of his appreciated the myths more by having him tell us them. So that was my first encounter with stories. After that, I dipped my toe in literature, much like you did. It was classics at first, and then more and more. And every time I'd learn a new language, the first thing I do from the moment I acquire the necessary level, I'd start reading in that language. So it was English first, then it was Spanish, then it was French, and I'm still making an effort with French, to be honest. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. As you said it, everything started in COVID when it comes to our line of work. Before COVID, in 2018, there was an amateur group of storytellers here on my island. They were mostly telling stories to children, so it was an easy transaction for me, already being a language teacher, to try that out because I knew how to address children's audience. It was the same as talking to class, more or less. Well, not exactly the same as talking to class when you were making an effort of making it interesting. So I tried that out and I joined that group. And then when COVID happened and we were confined inside our homes and we were all struggling with keeping the students' interest alive in those hard times, and ourselves, of course, I too met with David. I heard one of his lectures for the British Council where he was announcing the course that was coming. So, for people who, as Simona said, should go back and have a listen to David Heathfield's interview, it's really nice in this podcast. As he said, CREST, which stands for Creative and Engaging Storytelling in the English Classroom, CREST course was immensely helpful to all of us who were trying to do just that. Find ways to make class more interesting for people who were just watching a screen while trying to learn. It really worked. It worked for me because I already had the teaching part. I already had the storytelling part. So it was like the pieces of the puzzle were coming together very easily and smoothly. And then after both CREST courses, CREST and Beyond CREST were over, from the people I met, an Argentinian colleague introduced me to another lady who was a teacher of English in Argentina. And what we did was she was working for a school. I was already a freelancer by then. So we created this once per month spot, a Zoom spot where we'd bring our students together, my Greek students and her Argentinian children levels B1 and higher. So they would be fluent enough to have a conversation in English. And then I would give them a story, maybe a riddle story or a wise tale or something like that. Something that could have them motivated enough to try and figure out, for example, ways to end the story or find out what the story represents in their own lives at present. So it was really nice because, we would divide them in small groups and we didn't have to be there all the time or be very observant because they had no other choice than to speak in English being Argentinians and Greeks, what other choice did they have? They could not cheat, if you know what I mean. So it worked really nice. That was my first effort to liven the knowledge I had acquired from the courses. And what was of the essence during those courses was that I learned how to adapt content according to different levels, adapt storytelling to all kinds of levels, not just preschoolers, not just very young children. So, for example, when we worked at this project with the Argentinian lady, everybody was at least a teen, teens or young adults or adults, the people who participated, and it seemed to work for them. We got lovely feedback at the end. So it was a way to implement what I had learned. And then working with children as a freelancer at my own little language school, I would once a month give them an extra Saturday on which I would gather the children and give them a short tale, because they're young and they cannot maintain focus for very long, like 10 minutes max. So after that, we would either dramatize it, play parts so the children would have fun, or I would give them time to paint images that they had created while listening in their minds. And then we would do something practical. Like, for example, I think I've told you about the spring fairy tale thing, where I always give them a story that has to do with nature and plants and flowers and the like. And then we actually plant our own seeds and then wait to see whether they will grow or not. It's fun. It's nice. But to be honest, I think that the most valuable part of attending David's courses was networking, because through his courses, I met with the lovely Kath Edwards, with whom we meet once a month at her Litchfield Circle. And it's been years that we've been doing that. I met her a couple of times in my visits to the UK, and she's a wonderful person. And then from Kath Edwards, I met Marion Lipa, to whose festival I've been twice already, at the East Anglian Festival in late spring, early summer usually. And then we both met all the wonderful people of the World Storytelling Cafe, which took me to a whole different adventure when I managed to visit Marrakesh for the first time in my life in 2023. I missed it this year, but hopefully I'll be able to go when the next one happens in 2 years' time. And the truth is that like 90% of the storytelling people I've met so far, Europeans, North Africans, Americans, Canadians, it seems that there's this universal common denominator that unites us, no matter where we come from or no matter the different circumstances in our lives. We seem to be sharing the same values, that is, inclusion and humanitarianism and empathy. And this is like finding your tribe.
Maybe we've just learned too much from our stories.
Well,
We've listened to many stories.
they do try to make us wiser, don't they? They do try to mature us as humans. So yes, I guess that works. So, Simona, I was thinking that we have both read stories, we've heard stories, and we've told stories. Do you have one particular story, just one that jumps up the highest among them all?
I do. I do. When we decided to do this episode, just me and you, and we said, oh, well, we should tell a story because we've listened to so many stories on the podcast, but we haven't actually told a story ourselves. I thought from some of my favorite stories, which is the one that I want to tell. And I chose an Italian story because I never tell Italian stories, but there are just a couple that I tell because I tell stories from all over the world, but sometimes I forget to tell stories from my own country.
I've heard you tell an Italian story once, I think. Must have been Christmas. It was something like a lady called Bufanda or something like that.
Oh, yeah. It was the story of the Befana. Yes, the Befana is on the 6th of January.
Right, right.
It's the one that flies in the sky. It's like a witch. It's a particular witch flies in the sky and brings away all the festivities. So we go back to school after the Befana. It's the Epiphany. Yeah, but I don't tell many Italian stories. But there's this one which I really like because it's got not a joke. Oh gosh, it's got a riddle. It's got a riddle. So this particular story I really like because it's got a riddle in it. And maybe you've already heard me tell this story, but if you want to guess, Despina, you can guess. And if you're listening, you can guess what the riddle is about. And well, during the story, you'll discover the solution, of course.
Nice. Story, story, story.
Story. Long ago, there lived a good king that realized that he didn't know much about the people that lived in his kingdom. And he wanted to get to know the people that lived there more. What did they do during the day? How much money they earned? So he thought, how can I do this? How can I do this? And he realized that the best way to go and learn about the people that lived in his kingdom would just be to take his horse, take some guards with him, and just ride outside of his palace and get to meet some of the people that lived in his kingdom. And he rode and he spoke to people here and there. He was riding in a field when he saw a peasant working in the field. So he stopped and he spoke to the peasant. And after a while, he asked the peasant, Peasant, how much money do you earn every day? And the peasant said, Well, let me think. I earn 4 coins every day. 4 coins, said the king. Oh, and how do you use these 4 coins? Well, the peasant thought, let me see. 1 coin I eat, 1 coin I give forward, 1 coin I give back, and 1 coin I give to my side. And the king said, Thank you very much. And he rode away. But then he started thinking, what does that mean? What does that mean? 1 coin I eat, 1 coin I give forward, 1 coin I give back, 1 coin I give to my side. What does he do with all these coins? Does he throw them here and there? Does he put them somewhere? What does he mean? I have no clue. So he rode and he couldn't stop thinking about the peasant's riddle. He kept thinking and kept thinking. I cannot go back and ask him what he meant. I'm the king after all. I should know what he meant. But he just couldn't stand it. So he went back. He said, Peasant, please. I've been thinking about this for so long while I was writing. Please tell me the solution. What do you mean? What do you use your 4 coins for? Said the peasant. When I eat, I use the first coin to buy food for myself. 1 coin I give forward, so I use that coin to buy food for my children because they are the future, and in the future they will probably give something to me to eat when I'm old. 1 coin I give back because I used that coin to buy food for my parents who fed me when I was little. So I give food back to them. And 1 coin I give to my side. So I use that coin to buy food for my wife who is always next to me. Ah, said the king. Now I understand. Well, peasant, your riddle was so nice that I would like to go back to the palace and see if someone can guess the riddle. I don't think they will be smart enough to do it, but let's do something. You have to promise me not to tell anyone the solution to the riddle unless you've seen my face 100 times before. Promise me. Hand on my heart, said the peasant, I promise. And so the king rode back to the palace and he told the riddle to all of the courtiers. So one peasant has 4 coins, 1 coin he eats, 1 coin he gives forward, 1 coin he gives back, 1 coin he gives to his side. What does he do with the coins? And everybody tried to guess, but no one could find the solution to the riddle. But then one of the advisors, he thought, I know that the king today stopped and talked at length with a peasant. I just need to find that peasant. And if I find that peasant, I'll find the solution to the riddle. So he rode out of the palace, he found the peasant, and he said, please tell me the solution to the riddle. No, said the peasant. I've promised the king that I won't tell the solution to the riddle to anyone unless I've seen his face 100 times before. And the advisor said, what can I do? What can I do? But then, walking forwards and backwards, he heard the jingling of coins in his pocket. And he opened his pocket and he took out 100 coins and he looked at them, a face on one of the 2 sides, the king's face. And so counting them, 1, 2, 3, 4, he gave the coins to the peasant. And the peasant took each of the coins, looked at the face of the king, and then put them in his pocket. Well, after a while, he was 100 coins richer than he was just a moment before. And he told the advisor the solution to the riddle. The advisor went back to the palace and he said, I know the solution, I know the solution. And when the king heard, he was angry. You cheated! You found the peasant! Bring me the peasant! He had made a promise he wouldn't tell anyone the solution to the riddle unless he'd seen my face 100 times before. And so the peasant was brought in. And the king was angry. And the peasant said, well, king, I've actually seen your face 100 times before I told the solution to the riddle. Here is where I saw it. He took 100 coins from his pocket and he showed them to the king. And the king started laughing. And he laughed and he laughed and he laughed and then said, well, peasant, I think you should come and work here at the palace. I want you as one of my advisors. You're so wise and so intelligent. I need men like you here at the palace. And so it was that the peasant went to the palace and became one of the advisors of the good king that wanted to know his people. And that's the story with the riddle. Have you already heard it, Despina? I don't know if you...
I hadn't. It was my first time. Lovely story.
Did you manage to guess while I was telling the story?
Look, I did understand that when he said 1 coin I eat, that would refer to food. I gathered that when he said 1 coin at my side, that would be his wife at his side, but I hadn't filled in the gap with the generations back and forth. So kind of, but not quite.
Yeah. And actually, you like this, Despina, because I know that you like when we work on stories to change them a little bit, to tweak them a little bit. The original version of the story said, 1 coin I eat, 1 coin I give forward, 1 coin I give back, 1 coin I throw away.
Ah, there you go. There you have the misogynistic patriarchy of the past. Yeah.
Huh?
We must subtly and gently fight it.
Yeah,
And we'll do that
absolutely.
with words. Great. Well done, Simona. I wanted to ask you, do you have one particular ending of stories in Italian? How do stories end? How do you say they lived happily ever after?
Vissero per sempre felici e contenti, which is actually the translation of they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
Felici e contenti, it's like a repetition. It's
Yeah.
they live
I get it.
happily and happily. Happily
Happily
and
and
joyfully.
contentedly, yeah. Indeed. Lovely. We have a lovely ending in Greek stories. I haven't heard anything like that ever before. We say και ζήσαν αυτοί καλά και εμείς καλύτερα, which means and they lived well, but we lived better. That's how stories end. It's lovely.
How do you start stories in Greek?
That's once upon a time. It's μια φορά και
Okay.
έναν καιρό. No difference in the meaning. Yeah, it's very interesting to see how stories start because sometimes there are little poems, little verses, Sometimes they sound like little songs at the beginnings and the endings, depending on which nationality the stories come from. And, some are very, very imaginative. Like, I don't know, in the Balkans, they say things like, back in the days when the fish could still walk upon the earth and talk, or, stuff like that. And I don't remember the dialect now. The Arab version of the beginning of storytellings I heard when I was in Marrakesh was that once upon a time there was and there wasn't. So you never know whether the story is true or not. Could have been, but it could have not been. It could be merely imagination, we don't know. So I was thinking what kind of story to share with you today. And then I thought of, I think it was Bruce Marcus, who told us about the concept of signature stories.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that this story I'm going to share with you now probably is one of my signature stories.
Wonderful.
Many storytellers, many of them will have heard part of the story I'm going to share with you before, but bear with me because there comes a twist that makes all the difference.
Story.
Right, here we go. Once upon a time, on a hot day, when the sun was high up in the sky and it was scorching, and it was really, really hot outside and inside people's homes, Lai was out and about. And as he was walking in front of Truth's house, he had an idea. So he knocked on Truth's door. Truth came out. It's a very hot day today, Lai said. Yes, indeed, said Truth. Why don't we go for a stroll along the river and maybe even have a dive? What do you think? Sure, yes, it is very hot. Let's walk together, Truth said. So she left her home and started walking down the river along the shore with Lai. And then they reached the place where the waters were shallow and they looked so enticing and so fresh. And Lai said, Hey, Truth, why don't we have a dive? Why don't we freshen ourselves? Look at how wonderful, how attractive the water looks. And Truth says, Yes, that is a good idea indeed. It is very hot. So they both removed their clothes and entered the river, or in other versions, the pond, or in other versions, the well. No matter what source of water, they both removed their clothes and entered it. And the water was so refreshing and so calming, and Truth was having such a wonderful time splashing around it that she barely noticed Lai getting out of the water, taking his clothes, taking her clothes as well, and fleeing. And after a while, she had had enough and she wanted to leave the water. She looked around and she could see Lai nowhere around, and she could see their clothes nowhere around. What could she do? She could not stay inside the water all day long. She tried to cover herself a bit and started working backwards to the direction where her house was, looking for some clothes on the way. The people who saw the naked truth, some of them averted their gaze. Others talked to each other and elbowed each other. Look at her, the way she comes out into society. That's incredible. That's preposterous. And others, shooed her away when she tried to call for help, called her names, and sent her away. A long time passed, and Truth was wandering naked at the streets, being bullied at times, harassed at others, but never, never had some kindness. Until one day, as she was passing through a street, trying to tiptoe her way so that she would not annoy people with her presence, on a threshold, a door opened, and out came a kind presence. And she said, Truth, is that you? Yes, it is I. Who is it? It's me, Story. Come in, come in. You'll find shelter in my house. Come in, I'll share my food with you, and I'll help you to some of my clothes. And Truth entered Story's house, and after such a long time that she had been looked down upon and treated badly, for the first time she felt the touch of kindness and humanity. And she sat there at Story's table and she shared her lunch with her. And then Story opened up her wardrobe and she said, just take anything you like. Now, if it was a Greek fairy tale, Truth might have picked the dress that had all the flowers embroidered upon it, or the other one, the blue that contained all the fish of the ocean, or the other one, the dark blue, blackish one that glittered with twinkling stars embroidered all over it. But it is not a Greek fairy tale, it is a universal tale. So Truth picked some clothes from Story's wardrobe and she put them on, and they fitted her like a glove. And when she left Story's house and walked down the street, her head held up high, the people who saw her, not only did they not avert their gaze, but they could see on Story's clothes, on the stories that Truth was now wearing, they could see their own stories. They could find themselves on Truth's clothes, and they welcomed Truth in their lives at long last. And this is why we tell stories.
This is why we tell stories. It was my first time listening to this story, Despina. I never ever heard it.
You know,
Yeah,
the
brilliant
story
story.
of Truth and Lie going for a dive is very well known, but it stops at the point when the naked Truth walks down the path that leads to the people's village, and everybody is disgusted because, you know, it takes a lot of courage to look at the naked Truth in the eye.
You come up with the rest?
I heard it once by a storyteller and it got stuck. It was working itself on the back of my brain, you know, the serpentine part that does the most fundamental work. It cooks, it boils inside there, and when it's ready, it just comes up to the front lobe, and out your mouth. And if this is
Absolutely.
somehow connected to your heart, even better.
Sure. It's wonderful. Well, now that we each shared a story and we talked a little bit about how we got into storytelling, Despina, what do you think about the future of this podcast?
One thing is for sure, we are certainly going to be part of a great little festival that happens in the UK, and that is called Get a Word in Edgeways. Mike Rust is the artistic director, and he has invited us. He was one of our interviewees at the first season, and he wanted us to be part of GAWI, we call it, using the initials. So for people who don't know about GAWI or who haven't listened to Mike Rust's interview so far, every October, it is a little festival that takes place at a lovely, very picturesque little town at the English side, the borders of Wales and England. And the town is called Much Wenlock. It's a wonderful place. All the houses have maintained the traditional structure, architecture, so it looks pre-medieval even, or Shakespearean time or something like that, you know. It just makes you trouble. It's really, really nice. Takes a weekend in October. This year it's going to be 10 to 12th. So if people have the chance of visiting, it's really nice, high quality storytelling and music, lovely venues. And it's small, it's tiny, so you just walk around it here from one venue to the next very easily. So we'll be under Gawi's and Mycroft's wing as Tell Muses, and hopefully we'll get to talk to more and more very interesting people from the storytelling world. And who knows, maybe even people we haven't heard of or haven't met so far. So it'll be a new experience.
Absolutely. We'll continue to talk to people and have fun and explore all the ways and the stories around the storytellers and the storytelling world. So we're very excited to continue with season 2 in a short while. We'll have to gather some material first and then we start releasing episode of the second season. But we are very excited. It's been a lovely, lovely journey. And if I think about our first ever episode with Liz Weir and how it evolved, and then listening back to maybe our first episode and thinking it was so long ago and we did so many in the meantime.
And we were so
And
lucky to start with Liz, who has experience enough for all of us.
yeah, absolutely. What I really liked about this first season was also the variety of storytellers that we had on the podcast. So from more experienced storytellers, we mentioned Liz Weir, for example, or Mike Rust, to let's call them newbies. So when we spoke to Omar, he was new-ish to the world of storytelling. So seeing these different views on the same art and the different stories coming from many from the UK, because that's where we have most of our contacts, but many in America as well. And someone from Marrakesh. And we want to go all around the globe with our interviews. It's nice to see how this art connects us all over the world.
Yes, and apart from the fun that we have during the interviews while we're doing this, we get educated, we are given resources and people's time and wisdom, which they share freely, you know, generously like that. We don't pay people, we don't get paid. We do this because we like it and it's not monetized. And we'd like to keep it that way because, you know, we have all the freedom. Thinking back to our first episode and how this has evolved to the last when we had gained some experience already, things are not very strictly structured. They just crystallize along the way. It's a process that takes flesh and bones by itself. Like when we're telling the stories, we're just channels. And it's really lovely to be channels in this effort to bring our global community together.
Absolutely. So, well, looking forward to season 2. And do you have any final words to end season 1 with, Despina?
I wish people a happy rest of the summer and see you back in winter, obviously, because if we start in autumn, we'll start gathering material and it takes a few months. But hopefully, winter, springish time, we'll be ready to start releasing again.
Yay!
Woohoo! Well done,
So,
my love. Congratulations to both of us and to all our muses who have passed from this podcast so far. And we're looking forward to the ones coming in the near future.
absolutely. Thank you to our muses. Thank you for listening. And thank you if you'll be here next season. So stay
Lots of
tuned.
love,
We'll
lots
be
of
back.
love to our listeners.
Bye.
Bye bye.